So we should be able to see people coming in live. I think we're live right now. We might have a little bit of a delay of like 30 seconds, but I guess we can start answering some questions as people start coming in, and we'll see how we go. So everybody, welcome and good morning to the Nordic Startup and Entrepreneurship Community's hashtag live stream Thursday from the largest startup and entrepreneurship group in Facebook in the Nordics. And this is a weekly video series where we'll chat with startups and entrepreneurs to learn more about their stories and journeys, both successes and failures. And today I have with us an entrepreneur here from in Finland, CEO of Firetail Games, Kim Ordén. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today, Kim.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Great. And if you're tuning in here on the live stream, we want you to comment below Games Rock so that we know you're here, and that would help us a lot so we get to know how many people are we reaching in our live streams. So let's get started here. Let's start a little bit from the beginning. So why was it that you, Kim, decided to become an entrepreneur? So like run us through your background and tell us a little bit of how you got from there to where you are today.
Okay, so it was quite an interesting journey. When I started I was living in Espoo in Finland, the southern area, and then I just got the idea I need to get the hell out of here. I need to get somewhere far away, but I wasn't Finn, so I couldn't go far away as going abroad. So I ended up studying or applying for a school in Joensuu, which is 480 kilometers from Helsinki to northeast, to Karolia University of Applied Sciences. And I didn't even know what I applied for. I had been doing games with Game Maker and during my time there, and I applied for the school, and then I get to hear that, okay, it's game development, it's game programming, and I'm like, oh shit, this is what I've been wanting to do for my whole life, and I always had a dream to work at the Nintendo back in the days because I was a huge fan of Pokemon and all these other Nintendo titles. So I ended up there, and when I started my bachelor degree, I just saw I had been playing a lot of hill climb racing. I have the hat on my head right now of the second game. I had been playing a lot, a huge fan of that game in the army. It was a good snack game for there. And I was like, okay, this game is very good. I like it, but we can make a better game. And that was the naive ambition, kind of naive optimism of jumping into the unknown without knowing where you're going and thinking you have a big chance, even though your chances are zero at that moment. So we started building the startup from there. There was a programmer on my class. We had the first Unity class, Unity course, and then we were like, okay, let's start making our own mobile game. And then kind of fast forwarding 3 years, we made the game. We were making like an endless runner type of thing. But we got the idea that we wanna start a business around this, and it's gonna be amazing and huge and stuff like this. But we worked for 3 years on the game, and we couldn't even finish one level of the game. Or one level we finished, but the second one we never got into there. There was a lot of problem because building a game it's a lot of hustle. There's a lot of stuff, and building a successful games business requires even more skills in the team than just building the game, and it's a lot of talent you need. So we developed the game for 3 years, and it turned out to be not very good, and we never got very far. And at that point we were like, okay, we thought it was kind of small. A lot of people who go for the games business, they are like, okay, let's make the next World of Warcraft, and they have 2 programmers and 1 guy who makes 2D art, and they're like, okay, we're done, let's do this. We were like, okay, kind of vague with our vision at the moment. Let's make a platformer game, but even that turned out to be too big of a challenge. So we were okay. Let's scope this down even more, and then we ended up. We got this. I'm very fond of very stupid, ambitious ideas. Of let's make it happen. So we couldn't finish 2 levels of a game in 3 years, but now I got the idea that we can make 4 games in 4 months, and that was an interesting idea. And obviously, we didn't make 4 games in 4 months. We made 4 very good prototypes, and ended up building one of those prototypes to a finished product. And when we were like maybe 2 or 3 months into development, we were like, yeah, we'll launch in 1 month, without really knowing what's the requirement prerequisites for like Apple Store and Google Play and all this stuff. So the launch got postponed with 6 months, and that's already when we founded the company. So we were thinking we were going to launch it around when we found the company. It took us 6 more months to finish the game. Mostly
And you're talking about the game that you're working on currently?
No, I'm talking about Trippy Viking, which was our
Okay.
first game we made put out in 2016.
Okay.
Then, yeah, so that's kind of where it started, where we got the company up. There was some guys jumping on in the beginning, and a lot of old connections. I was making amateur movies for over 10 years and making games as a hobby. I actually published my first game online in secondary school. I was, I think, on 8th grade or something like this. It was a weird Mario clone where you play with a mushroom. And
Okay.
that kind of stayed the theme later on. And so the guys who we founded the company, some new guys from the school, from our bachelor degree, and some old guys from the movie things. And we had kind of like a couple guys that play, let's do this. So that's where it started, kind of.
And where did you get those guys? Did you just find them on the streets, or you knew them from before, or how did that work?
Where do you find game developers? You go on the street and there's a cardboard box, and then you look in there and there is a guy without clothes and eating noodles and having a laptop. No, that wasn't what happened. Yeah, so as I said earlier, we were doing our bachelor degree. Some guys came from there. Some guys came from the old movie projects, like our composer, our marketing officer, and then programmers came from the school. And then one graphics guy came from a game jam, and he was a bit older guy, and kind of in a different phase of life. He ended up leaving the company as well later, because we were very young and kind of unexperienced and very ambitious and passionate. He had probably seen too much already, so he didn't really feel up going through the whole thing of struggling with a very starting game startup again. So, but it was cool anyway. So it was kind of the people from a bit from the past and from the school and from that area. So
Cool.
yeah.
And then tell us about the game that you're working on currently. So,
Yeah.
how did you come up with that idea? Like, I would imagine, like, in the middle of a games company, and you want to do games, how do you even settle on doing the game that you're doing right now? I'll let you tell the name of that game.
Well,
I'm
going to tell the game. So we were actually working. I could go a bit back in the day. So how we.
Okay.
He made a song inspired by a famous game composer, Chris Hulsbeck, who made the games music for Turrican and Giant Sisters and these kind of games. And
Okay.
it was like a space themed music composition, and I was like, I want to make a space game. And then I got this weird idea, like combining Flappy Bird with Space Invaders. But then I ran around with different concepts. First, I had like a spaceship, but it was with gravity and stuff like this, so it didn't just fit that well that the spaceship is flying there a bit weirdly. It didn't fit in. Then I was thinking about like a huge space worm eating planets and shooting fireballs and stuff like this, something very over the top. And then at some idea I just popped like, I like Vikings. What about the Viking eating mushrooms in outer space and barfing rainbows and destroying invading alien army that is trying to destroy his home planet? And I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And kind of the idea for Drunken Pants is a legacy of that. So the game was obviously not a success as a product. The monetization was very bad. But there's the struggle of just finishing a product when you start your game studio. And free-to-play business model is very tricky, and it's a very hard thing. Even big companies can make several games with a lot of experience, and they still don't just nail the retention or the ROI or anything on those games. So it wasn't really a valid product for the market. but people notice it because of the funkiness, the craziness, the goofiness. So then we started making another game, which was just a very bad project. Everything we did all the mistakes that you can do in a games project, like business-wise, project management-wise, design-wise, programming-wise, everything. But the good thing was we did it all in 6 months, and we got a lot of experience from that. So it wasn't a long journey, like wasting 4 years on making all these mistakes. We did it very rapidly, and that's something we should be very proud of as well. And after that, we were like, okay, we were still focusing on mobile, but all of us were PC gamers. And when you're making games, passion is a very important resource. When you're making a startup, anything, passion is very important. If you have the passion for it, you're probably gonna find your way. You're gonna work so hard on making your vision come true that you're gonna put that couple two shifts in that is required for the success. So people weren't so passionate about building mobile games because we didn't play so many mobile games, and so in the end the mobile game we were making started shifting more looking like a PC game, and it didn't really match well with the platform we were going for. And then we were like, yeah, fuck it, let's just do what the fuck we want with this and go for PC, and started building this kind of multiplayer brawling kind of game. And then there was this game designer from Britain who has been sparring all the teams in Joensuu as well, who just came like, yeah, we've seen games with Vikings before. There's quite a lot of these on the market already, and in the crowd of Steam, which is growing with games, there was more games published in Steam last year than in its whole history since I think back in the 90s or early 2000. So they're quite saturated at the moment. So you're not going to differentiate in a Viking game. So you need to make something different. We went on the balcony, had a cigarette. Not, I was going to say we had a smoke, but that would have probably been misleading. We had a cigarette and discussed that what could it be. And then we were like, okay, this whole concept of getting drunk in your underpants is becoming a big thing on the media right now. Like there's books being written, it's all over the place. Vogue is featuring it. Like, is this something that we should like look up? There is really no game around this concept. And also on the same time, this My Summer Car had been just released on early access on Steam, which is like a Finnish countryside simulator where you build your own car and just drink and drive and all this kind of stupid stuff.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah, and then we saw these all Finnish memes, like just Finnish things, all these Nordic, how do you say this, comics where they like compare the different Nordic cultures with other cultures and stuff like this. So we were like, is this something that could work in a game environment? And then we just like, okay, let's take this getting drunk in your underpants. What if they are not Vikings fighting each other? What if they are characters who got drunk in their underpants, fighting over something very mundane? And that's where we ended up with working with Drunken Pants. So like how I say it, it's ordinary heroes solving mundane problems with excessive violence, drunk in their underpants. And it's heavily inspired by like 90s Super Nintendo PC kind of games. So that's kind of where the core idea came from. But obviously the game has been in development for over a year, and the idea has lived. And what is easier to change, or the most easiest thing to change in a game production, is the concept and the story. So that should live more than like, let's settle with this and just adapt everything to that, because sometimes it's very hard to make clever design decisions when you're bound to a certain story or certain aesthetics or something like this. So.
And I want to go back. You were saying that you think you failed on the monetization part of the entire thing. What do you think you learned from failing on that you could apply to being a success in the future?
Well, we understand now, because we had to dive in very deeply into how the whole free-to-play business model works. And I think free-to-play, people are not willing to pay. But like on mobile, for example, the premium market is quite small right now. There's product like Hatch,
think we're having a little bit of a technical.
kind of
There we go. Now we're back. Maybe not.
And it's going to be, I don't know, it's work with Hatch, basically.
A little bit of technical difficulties here. I think we lost Kim. Maybe he can reconnect here and see if we can continue our talk. Currently, from what I understand, he is on a trip to Helsinki to do something with game development. I was going to get into it in a little bit, but his frozen face, oh, now it's completely disconnected. It's probably not going to answer. So let's hang around and see if we can get him back on board here, because I think there's a lot of things to discuss, and I think there's also a lot of people who probably have some questions about what it takes to start a game company, and going through all of those struggles like Kim has.
Hello.
All right, yeah. Now we got him back.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, I could open up why I'm sitting in a car in the first place.
So yeah, we got like the first couple sentences, and then it started cutting out.
Yeah, where did we end? Can you repeat the questions? It was about monetization.
About monetization, yeah. What did you learn from it, and how could you apply that to success in the future?
Well, what I see is people being less willing to pay for games at the moment. And for example, mobile is completely dominated by free-to-play. And then we have products like Hatch, developed by a couple of guys, like a daughter company of Rovio, which is basically a Netflix of premium games. So there are some opportunities, but just getting to know how the whole business model works. Like you have ad revenue, you have microtransactions, and you need to build a pool. And just like basically in a free-to-play game, the revenue streams doesn't start instantly. The core of that is to retain the players inside of the game for several weeks or even a month before they think this is worth investing money into, and then they start probably investing even bigger amounts. But in that sense, I think we learned about this whole ecosystem of how the business model just functions. And I think we can, even if we're now building a premium game, we have to most likely go to free to play at one point, and we already have that core experience and know-how of how the whole thing works. We have the connection with people in the industry. With free to play for first one, there's good advisors around and stuff like this. So just I think smart upfront. Some of they want to know the game, try it out before they are willing to invest to it. So yeah, I think just knowing how several business, because premium, it's a very simple business model in that sense, where it's easy to calculate and you just have the number of units you need to sell and how much you invest into it, and then what's your marketing budget. And if you can make a product that it works well enough, you can just not print money, but basically it's a very easy calculation. While again, free to play has so many different metrics that you need to evaluate and look at all the time, and you can determine already before you're even investing money into user acquisition that is this going to work in the long run or not. Because so we have that know-how now, and we can adapt that also now when we're building a premium game, like retention, just knowing the whole term and looking at those things, approaching the whole design, not just from a fully passionate perspective, like let's make this game, but we can use all this kind of data-driven development also, which is not always the case in indie studios that are building premium games for PC. So that would be my short answer for this.
Yeah, we got a little bit of glitches there, but I think we got most of it. So, I mean, just so everybody understands, why are you in a car right now? Where are you headed? I think I saw a sleepy developer in the background there. So,
it's our CTO.
So what's going on? Where are you guys at?
Yeah, we're going to Housemark office for an excursion. So Sami Hakala, who is one of the producers at Housemark, I think lead producer even, he has been giving us like workshops and sparring and stuff like this during the spring term here for all the companies in Joensuu. And now this is kind of the last event, so we go to their office and check out what's happening, and they're probably going to have more of their staff telling out how they work with things, how their product management works, maybe marketing, maybe how they do their particle effects, all this kind of stuff. So we're just going there to check out, a little bit bigger company. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, would you say that the Drunken Pants game is over and you're doing something new? I mean, what is the new thing for Firetail Games? What are you guys up to now?
Drunken Pants is far from over.
Good.
We're going strong. We just did our soft launch in January, and it didn't go well because we kind of knew it won't go well, but we wanted to try it out anyways to kind of get numbers and see how much visibility you just get from putting out your game on Steam, and is there any room for a local multiplayer game? How will the public react to it? What is the approach for the design, for the concept, for everything? So it's far from over. It's been in development a little bit over a year now. I think our first demo was ready at Nordic Game last year. That was 2 months of development, and that was in May last year. So we're a little bit over 1 year now. And we're scheduled. We were planning the initial release from early access during the summer, but no, we're not far. We're far away from that. So we're postponing the launch to Q1 in 2019. And a thing I need to say about this postponing and in-game projects, when you work very long on a game, it can be tedious at times. You're putting all your soul and energy into the creative process, and it can, when you say let's work on this for another 6 months, the developers can be like, no, we're not gonna do this. And then in a management position, you're kind of in a fucked up situation. You have a bad product and a team that are not willing to make the product any better because they're probably so burnt out already. They want to do something new, and usually the decision there is just to release it because it's lesser loss to have a slightly less worse product that you can back up with proper marketing, rather than burning the team to an end, and then the next product will be even shittier. Because in a creative industry, I think taking care of we can see that with Supercell and how they manage the whole thing, like giving the freedom for the developers and letting them decide and all this stuff. I think that's a good work culture that really boosts the creative process. And when people are feeling good and not feeling completely super stressed all the time, I think the creative flow is also better. So in that sense, if I would have said that let's postpone Trippy Byte with six months, I think our team would have left, most likely. We were very, very tired at that point. And if I would have said that with our next game, it would have been even more catastrophic. But now I said let's postpone with 6 months, and everybody, let's do this and let's make even better game. Because now we've gotten the project management in a better stage. Just how I lead the company, everything is slightly more free, because I've grown as a leader. I've grown as an executive in the position where new leaders, trust is always you try to be the master of puppets. You try to keep every string in your hands and think you can control everything, but just realize that you can't control so many things, and you're focusing in completely different things where if you really want to control the situation. So I think I'm matured in that sense throughout the journey, and now everything is just looking better. We're not burning out people anymore in that sense, so we can just make a better game, postpone it if necessary, and when we make it even better, we have a bigger chance in.
And speaking as you're a leader, how would you say is the best way to motivate the employees to continue going, to keep pushing through those hard times when it seems like the launch date is never in sight?
Well, now it's not a problem at this moment, but I think like just showing, putting the values in hand. Like, what is more important, the health of your workers, or like finishing the product and getting to goal? Is that sustainable? Probably not. And when we're talking about like an industry like games, we're already having a lack of programmers in the IT field in general. And if games is a niche of that, so if you're not taking good care of your employees and people respecting their whatever, it's gonna probably not be sustainable. You need to really keep those people in there. But motivation, I think, biggest motivation is giving space to grow, giving constant challenges, pushing the kind of vision always to next level. So even if the game we're currently working on, it will be a failure, we know we won anyways, because we are in a quite early stage of our careers, and we learned a shitload of things again. And when we go for the next project, we have so much more in our hands, because there's so many things that can go wrong anyways in this industry. That's kind of like realistic approach. Being also communication is very important, like openness, and not trying to keep the struggles to yourself. Rather, just I think that's a good thing. But what motivates, I think, people want to be proud of what they are doing, and they need time to make those things work, and so they can feel good about what they are doing. So I think
Right.
that's one of the key motivation, like the pride of your work.
True. Good way to put it. And then going on not only motivation side, but on the paying for the labor side. I know that you said a few times you've been doing this without investment. How did you guys?
Yeah.
How do you guys keep the lights on? How do you guys keep that going?
Well, we have some like really minor outsourcing. I've been doing some like courses and stuff like this, but it's a very passionate company where with people are in the stage of their career. So it's been mostly sweat equity in terms of labor. And then we've been supported a lot from Science Park with free office space and the business incubator and game brewery. This what's it called? When you like project, kind of game brewery project. They have been giving us a chance to go to these conferences and stuff like this. So we've been just getting shitloads of support. Also the draft program in Karelia, UEF, and now even the vocational school has been a huge support that been helping us like get out there with our products and seeing people and networking. But labor is currently just like I've been doing it for 6 years now, and I haven't paid a single salary. But the thing is, we started from zero. Usually people, when they start a company, they have 50 or 60 maybe, like they have work experience or something like this. So I think the value proposition here for when we are so young and so early on in our careers, people who graduate from the school, if they are not ambitious enough to look for a very good job, they most likely will end up maybe in a help desk position or something like this, which was really not what they applied for in the first place when they started their studies. So I think what we can, it's the value as well. We're growing with the company. We're building a future. We're building our networks, and that kind of driving force is very, very good. So.
And then for somebody who's starting off, like a student who comes out of school or someone who has no money, no funding, what is like the support network that you were able to find in Finland or in Joensuu specifically that really helped you guys?
Well, we had good luck with the game brewery and the game lab before it was even Firetail, and there was this kind of EU and Science Park funded projects that gave us the office space and the opportunities, which we just had to find the human resources that were actually willing to put in their hours into building something cool together. But I think the draft program, that's a very easy way of trying out your ideas. That's only in Joensuu right now, but I don't know if people can apply from other wells. But if you're based there, uh, there's not so many people applying there, so you're probably guaranteed going to get at least like 1,000 euros, and you can do like a trip to Nordic Game or some other conference to meet people, build your networks. I think network is very important. So just if you don't have much funding, you want to invest it into meeting people because they probably can help you with the hardship that you would have to pay. But you could maybe buy that knowledge from somebody, but they're usually in this industry, people are very willing to hand out advice and help other guys in need, because it's a very risky industry, and we never know when the one big player at the moment might just come crashing down, and then you want to people start remembering like where they started and how they built, how they behave to other people in because it's a small industry, so then it becomes relevant. So but funding, you can get government funding. I was thinking about taking a loan from like Finvera, but then I'm thinking it's games industry, it's my first company, it's a very risky industry. Even when you have millions of funding, there's guys who don't even make it then, even if they have 20 years of experience in the industry. It doesn't say we don't have a chance. And each day we're working on this, our chances get obviously better. The thing is also we have that nothing to lose attitude, because everything we're doing, it's not just building the company, it's also building ourselves as professionals and individuals. But there is different government funds, there's business angels, but all of these usually, like if you want to get a publisher on board, it usually requires a portfolio of games already under there, showing that the team can actually provide what they are trying to sell. Investors might work in the more early stage, but usually nowadays you need good metrics already at that stage. So you need to have something in soft launch, and soft launching is not free. So I think going for the network route and making good connections and learning to know some people or just any people that could maybe connect you to somebody who might be willing to invest in your company in a very early stage, and who sees the value because they know you as a person and not just as a pitch deck or something like this. I think that's here's some background conversation, but
no worries. So going back to the people conversation, because people are very valuable, and you know, your connections and your network is really going to push you through even the hard times. So who is a person that really inspires you, who keeps you like going north towards where you want to be?
Who would inspire me? Like, I think it's more about companies that inspire me rather than individuals, because I think this is not really a solo. There's good heads, there's good guys in charge of companies, and but there's always a big bunch when you're making games. So it's not just a one-man show. It's a bigger thing. So companies that have been inspire me, of course, Fingersoft, because there was the like key initial kind of ignition for getting the stupid idea to start this in the first place. Then we have Supercell with just how they're building their world culture and creating a very interesting kind of form of running the business very freely for the developers, and thinking about what is important to them so they can build better games. That's obviously one. Another one is from like a business dev perspective is Blizzard, whose games I was playing a lot of World of Warcraft. So how they basically build a strategy for 30 years around one IP, starting from what they could make now, and then kind of visioning the future where they made people very addicted to the world and the characters and everything, and then launched the big hit, which was World of Warcraft, and have been keeping people coming back to that for several years. So that's another one who has been inspiring. And then also Nintendo, when being a big company, still innovating and trying new things all the time and not stagnating, even though we all are aware of Japanese work culture and how they run businesses, they can be sometimes not the most rapid and how iterative companies in the world. So seeing still how they try to push their hardware to new limits, how they design the games with a different perspective rather than just making what's how would you say, the next following the trends, just like trying to push their own ways. It's been always inspiring for me. That's a couple of these companies. So I'm basically taking references like a small slice of everything, because everybody's making something right and everybody's making probably something wrong. So I think building your kind of inspiration around several sources is a valid thing. So
Good. And then what about the student or the beginner who has an idea and they have the inspiration? What do you think the method or the steps they should take in order to become in the game industry something prominent, whether they're starting their own company or working for a game company?
Well, the guys who are most hated in this industry, after ad network guys or some other guys walking in suits when everybody else is walking in hoodies, is idea guys. So I used to be one of those back in the days, but thankfully I've grown as a person from there. So there is this guy who has designed on paper in a Word document the universe, and now he's looking for developers to make it. And he has no clue about the tech side or how to draw graphics or anything. He's just basically a guy, and there's everybody. Even if you have the like very junior level programmer, he's been playing games for his whole life, and he has great ideas probably that could be turned into great projects. And if you don't have any technological or artistic or something that you can actually contribute to the project, I think that's where you should start learning Unity, take Unreal, start building scenes or trying to build your own kind of prototype or something to get into what is the making of games as a process, rather than just thinking about good ideas to put together. So just building the core skills. So
very good. And then what is like the future of Firetail Games? Where do you see this? Like, I'm sure you're pointing it in a certain direction. I'm sure once you launch this game, there's going to be something you already have in mind next. I mean, where's the direction you think it's going?
So our core strategy is like, we're young adults. We're in our like busiest years right now, and there's not so many games on the market right now that actually caters for us who are like core gamers, have been playing our whole life. But then most of the bigger games, they kind of require huge time investments, but then the other like setup is mobile games, which most of us don't enjoy to the fullest. So we're trying to contribute to that kind of and push as strongly as possible. But I think the grandness of this company will be around in 5 years probably, and most likely we're gonna have some kind of bigger market share than we have right now. But there's a long way ahead, and we will be as a company providing these kind of games that you can enjoy even at the full experience in a very short time window, and getting like the core, your hands sweaty and stuff like this that the gamers are asking for, and building those kind of products. So Drunken Pants is now, we don't know if our next game will be as crazy. It depends a lot of how well this one goes, but obviously we need to differentiate ourselves. But our motivation is to build multiplayer games for this kind of more busier adults at the moment. So
right. And then where do you see the future of games going? Like, is there something that you see coming out soon that you know you're going to be jumping in on, or the future of the hardware that's coming up? I mean, what does the future look like to you?
Well, we have quite VR was a big thing, but it didn't really become as big as people were expecting. There's people making games for smartwatches. I think with like mobile phones becoming so powerful that they basically can run very, very tough games in the future. And we have a huge generation of gamers who have been growing with mobile. that like more core kind of games are coming for that platform as well in the future. So we've seen that already with PUBG and Fortnite, on which are the big hits right now in the industry with battle royale and all this stuff happening. That there's a craving for more advanced games for the mobile, and people want actual real gameplay and not just tapping a screen. There's a huge audience for those games as well. I'm not saying there isn't an audience for tapping your screen kind of games as well, but the audience is growing all the time. There are so many millions, tens or hundreds of millions of gamers that we don't always see that where that bunch is lying, who are just, they're hungry, they have their wallets open, they're like, just make a game for us and we're ready to pay whatever. And I think in the future, mobile games, we'll see more core. They're pushing the mobile esports now, but I think it still takes some time to kind of mature the whole idea around that. But we're gonna see some more core gameplay focused games on the mobile as well.
Yeah, what do you think about Drunken Pants being an esports as like a game that
like
people would play?
Yeah, I think we have that like competitive focus in mind. We're not really making it esports, but we want to make it competitive. So, there's this vague line between casual and esports. We're trying to be somewhere in between, like having a fun match of football in the park with your friends. It's still very competitive and it's a lot of fun, but it's not like you're gonna slice anybody's throat if you lose or something like this.
Maybe.
But I think the game Rocket League, for example, is a good example of a very kind of casual game where the gameplay is just, you can go very far with it. You can get very, very good at the game, and it changes how well you perform in the game. And just having that space, it can create esports around it, even if you're not fully focusing on that. So it's a kind of trendy thing right now, the esports, and there's a lot of big players pushing there. So having that as a small indie studio as your core focus, I don't know if that's the way you want to go. If it is, fine. But for us, we want to keep the competitive aspect in the gameplay, but we're not fully focusing on making it esports. But if it starts going that way, we're fully prepared. So.
Right. And then I guess to start wrapping this up a little bit, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting an entrepreneurship, their journey, where they just got the idea, they got a couple guys who want to join them? What do you recommend that they do in the beginning?
Like, I think values are important. So put your life values intact before starting, I would say, because I was going very hard for a long time. I was like work first, then having beers with friends, then maybe family, then like the whole thing. So health was not the first priority. And if you want to build a sustainable company, and if you want to get those rounds closed, if you want to feel good when you're networking, all this stuff is happening, I think you need to have your health intact. Talking about physical health firstly, and it also, if you're exercising and stuff like this, it's very abstract and very simple. But I think just having those values intact before you start the company will help you not burn out in a time when you need the energy. I had good luck that I've been good at networking, getting the right people around. Keep it afloat. And now, and that's probably something that can happen for a lot of young entrepreneurs. They are so focused on getting things working, and they see already the goal, like the winning line in their eyes. But the last push can take so much if they just put all in there that they don't have the energy. They'll fall just before line and fall out, and then they never get there. So getting that sustainable approach to the whole thing is probably the most important, I think.
So sort of like perseverance. They should definitely keep persevering. Once they see the line, don't give up right before the end.
Yeah, don't give. I think that people give up right before the end because they run out of energy or something like this. Like perseverance is
Right.
very important. You should always keep pushing forward. But if you're, as a lot of veteran entrepreneurs say, it's not a 100-meter like sprint; it's a marathon. So
Exactly.
if you're gonna use all your energy in the first 100 meters because you think the winning line was there, but actually it's 40 kilometers away, you're gonna run out of energy, and you need to maintain that. So keep your values, like focus on keeping your health together, because you then 10 years won't feel like a challenge, and you'll be working in the long run. You can put so much more into the company that you're actually gonna make it successful, because it's like some things just don't happen. You can't actually like push some things, even if you want them to happen fast. It might take a lot of time, and if you don't have the energy anymore at that point to kind of preserve, then you're most likely gonna fall before you get to the end. So
Right. I think that's a
yeah,
good point. We can end this stream. I think we've been going
yeah,
for almost an hour, so it's pretty good.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for Kim for taking part.
yeah. Thank you
Next
for having me.
Thursday, yeah, next Thursday we're going to be chatting with Matthias Dahlqvist, a Finnish entrepreneur and CEO of Nordic Sales Crew. So if you're into getting clients, you're into getting sales, it should be a interesting talk. So thank you again, Kim. Thank you,
Yeah,
Nordic
thanks.
Startup. And I'll see you guys all next Thursday.
Yeah, see ya. Bye.
See you later.